I like your hair, by the way. It's cool.
Thank you. Ahoy, legendary listeners. You are listening to the Halo Effect podcast with Lauren Quellhurst. And tonight we have on the legend Nico Verresen. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I seem to have chosen all people
Yeah.
that have difficult names. But basically, I found Nico online, and I started looking at his content and really resonated with the message that he was putting out there with his words, but then in his videos as well came across super authentic and transparent. And so, like with the rest of the people, I reached out, contacted him, asked if he wanted to jump on the podcast and spread his message. And the humble legend he agreed. And yeah, it's been really nice just interacting with him backstage to this. But a brief little intro to who Nico is that his professional career began as a professional fighter, and he did that for around 12 years. He says humbly, but it's probably a little bit longer than that. And he also has a master's in psychology, so specializing in performance and positive psychology more so, with a dabble into the hypnosis field. So Nico is quite an interesting human because he has quite a background in a lot of different stuff that probably most people wouldn't think would go together. But we were talking before, and I just thought I want to introduce him more, but the way that he speaks about what he does and where he's come from will probably do this episode a little bit more justice. So I'm going to handball it over to you, Nico, for you to correct what I've said or to add on to that.
Well, thank you for the introduction and for your invitation. I always like it a lot. I will start a little bit with my story. I was a very weird little kid that had a hard time connecting. And so, what did I do when I was 14? I had two solutions. I went into books to read about psychology and a lot about sexuality. 14-year-old kid packed with hormones. and uh, and I started to do Muay Thai. And from the first moment I saw it, I was in love. That became my wife for the next, well, now we're together for fucking hell,
The
23
fact that you
years.
have to count it is a sign that it's been a
Yeah,
while.
yes, yeah. So 23 years, and then I started fighting after 6 months. And then I fought professionally for, I think, 13 or, yeah, between 12 and 15 years. I don't really. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna count, but that's not my strong point. Hitting the head is not the best thing for calculus. So let's say that. Keep it at that. No, so but then when I was fighting, I was always that double stream. I was fighting at the same time. I was a big nerd. I was studying psychology. I was studying sociology, philosophy, everything, and a lot about sexuality because that was very fascinating to me. Because I was really shy. I didn't even dare to look a woman in the eyes. At the same time, I was fighting for the Belgian Championship, the Benelux Championship. I didn't dare to look a girl in the eyes. It was so interesting that duality, And but I had a big rage in me because my father became very ill when I was the age of 6, and I saw everybody just dropped him. Before that, our house was full every week, 3 4 times. People were visiting, and because it was helping everybody, it was such a warm, strong, but very caring and affectionate man. So I'm really lucky. I had like the best example. Then I come. So then he became sick. Everybody dropped him. I was an angry little kid, and then I started fighting. And then I had a second great example, which was Mario, my trainer, which is of course a completely different kind of person, but also really strong, but really caring, a bit more in the traditional alpha male way, but again, a man that has integrated the warmth and the caring. Like to me, that are the only true alphas. People that, and it's like when you look at the gorillas. No, not the chimps. It's really interesting. You have two kinds of alphas. Do you know about this?
Go for it. Take the stage.
Yeah. So you have the bully alpha. The bully alpha, when he takes over, he does mostly with extreme violence. He makes sure that only he can mate with the girls, and if anyone else tries, he almost kills them. He takes all the best fruit, all the best food, and he also everybody's on edge. And they stay on, but they stay on not so long, 1 more, maximum 2 years, or some a bit longer, but it's very limited because it's very dependent of how strong he is. So when he gets older, or when another strong ape comes, he literally gets murdered by the entire tribe. They rip him to pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I see is the real alpha, is the alpha who's really strong, but does not need to use it.
Yeah.
He is much more socially intelligent, so he gives attention to the little babies. It's true. He makes sure that the weaker animals of the tribe get protected when they get bullied, and he sees it, he comes in between. And so what is happening is interesting. And he has like and very often it's not the strongest ape, but it's the most socially aware. So what happens, he makes like an alliance with the other, almost the other dominant strong apes. And so he shares his fruits and his vegetables with everybody. And he also shares the ladies with his team of alpha apes, which I thought was a very interesting thing. And so that was what I was aspiring to become a guy like that has that both of those things developed. But because I had very little, I mean, I was a real boy. I liked fighting, I was climbing trees, and everything else, like soccer, was for girls, in my eyes. I was really headstrong and very, very, unique. And so then, but on the road, like, of course, until I was like 12 and a half, girls were not interesting. They were whining, and they were crying, and they were playing with dolls. I didn't understand at all. But then all of a sudden, testosterone comes and says, hello. And all of a sudden, that changes completely. And then they become this enigma. Because I went to an all boys school still.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so along the way, I started to get a little bit of confidence, and then I was 18. I got my first girlfriend. At the same time, I was like about 5 times at that time, 3 or 4 times Belgian champion, and I went pro. Yeah, and then I went pro then exactly, and then. But then after 3 years, I mean, you have to imagine, I was very needy because, I had no idea, that I was attractive, but also I have a very dominant nature.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be summarized in one sentence. Oh, personal space, but I thought you loved me. So this poor girl got so much, got like this leash that never wanted to go away on her leg, and so of course she had to escape, the poor girl. And also we were not really a really good fit. But of course, when I was 21, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
So what I did, like, it was in the summer, right after my exams, she broke it up. I was destroyed. I was just lying in my bed. I went to work. I trained. That was it. My father really hated it. It's like he was really sad for me, and he was actually really sick at that moment. So at a certain moment, one of my best friends, who I had just denied the last weeks, he said, Nico, if you're not going to go out with me for your birthday, I'm going to be really pissed off, because then you're a horrible friend, you selfish bastard. I'm like, okay. So I went out, but it was like a trick. And so then the next day I came home. That was my birthday. I came home after work. I was destroyed because I started working at 4. Like, it was like vacation work. So I go into my bed. I wake up, all of a sudden I open the door. I see like a friend of my father in the garden. I'm like, oh God, you goddamn kidding me? Because he was a real nice guy, but really loud, and he was there. He was there. He couldn't deny. I'm like, motherfucker. I don't want to see him. But okay, I go downstairs. I try to open the door, and it's locked. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, leave me in. Why? It didn't click, I heard some noise. I'm like, what is this? Like, open this No, I was really angry. So finally they opened the door. I'm like, finally. So I throw open the door. All of my friends and all of the family members. Like, it was at least 50 people. Man, like, yeah.
I would have cried and I would have just, yeah, fallen on the floor in a heap.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been
I
amazing, Nico.
didn't fall in the heat, but of course, like, there was a tear strolling from my cheek, of course. Yeah, and but the problem was that was the last thing my father did, because he died 2 weeks later, and then so that destroyed a lot of me. But so what did I do? What a lot of people do, they go really into what they're doing.
Yeah.
I studied really hard, so I got honors that year. Then after that, I was doing some publications. I went to do a PhD program and I worked as an assistant professor. And at the same time, I was really focused on fighting. The next year, I broke my arms 2 times, but I still won that fight. I won an entire tournament. I won the European Championship. So on the surface, I was being all I could be, but inside I was dead. And so that kept going on, and then finally I got a girlfriend, but I was really dissociated, So I can say I was not a nice guy to be with. I really hurt a lot of women. Why? Because I didn't dare to open up.
And you were hurting yourself. Like, something that interests me is that the field of work that you would have been in, I can imagine already that you're a different kind of human just to be around in general, like a real mix of all sorts, but to be in a very masculine and alpha role, I'm not sure how you would have integrated work with coming home. It would have just felt so strange, because it's like, here you are and really care about people, and I can tell that you're very like analytical as well, and you have that beautiful quality of having a real strong alpha way about you, but I can tell that you've got a really big soft heart as well, which I'm not sure other fighters would have. So and maybe that's just an assumption of mine, I'm not sure.
That's an assumption. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All got big hearts.
Yeah, well, not all of them. Like, you go into something like that very often because you have been bullied, or with me it was just fighting was my passion. I want to be a warrior. I want to be a Native American, actually. Like, I want to be a Native American. But of course, then later I decided, oh yeah, you can't become that. You have to be born. So I said, okay, then I will become a Muay Thai fighter. So that's what happened. But then what happened then after my career on the university, it went much too slow for me. I said, okay, I go fully for my fighting career. And then, but in the process, because I before that, I used fighting as a pleasure. I really loved it. I loved it every single moment of it. But from that moment, the goal became really important. And I started to go from intrinsically to extrinsic motivation. So I wanted to just win. And I wanted to destroy my opponents. I have to be honest, I was a really violent guy. I wanted to really, I wanted to hurt him, I wanted to knock him down. And after that, I was the nicest, sweetest guy. Some people want to call me the smiling gentleman. But whenever I was fighting, I want to hurt him as much as I could. That's just, and I still have that little dark side in me, like if I'm sparring, I want to hurt you. Like, it's like that. That's just how it is. But so then I yeah. But then so like I said, like I had 3 fights where I broke my arms. I kept on fighting. 2 times I won. 1 time I got like a split decision loss, which is like actually I fought at his own terms of this told me. So it was like I did really well. And then by some circumstances, I shifted my focus to mixed martial arts. And then I traveled, for example, to Japan and knocked out a legend. While I never thought it was possible, because he was a specialist on the ground with jiu-jitsu, and I was a complete newbie. But for some reason, I was completely jet lagged. But it worked because and that's where something started to shift. But wait a minute. I always hear from everything, and a lot of the science says stress is bad. But here I am, and I've seen it, and then I thought back about my past. Like every time I faced an opponent that on paper I had no chance of winning against. Every time that was on a big stage, every time that the pressure was high, I stepped into my full potential. I performed better than I expected. That was what was going on. And when I was faced with a guy that normally I could win against, I won, but it was not so fantastic. So that was interesting. And that started to work behind. Now then, fast forward, I do jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I go to the States a few times to train, to make some connections, and all of a sudden I get an offer to work in the United States. And the season that Ronda Rousey, I don't know if you know her, she's the first female world champion in the Ultimate Fighter in the UFC. She had like I trained with her a few years before, but in that moment she was the captain of the team. So I was gonna do the Ultimate Fighter, and I had a very good chance to be accepted because I was an elite. Uh, I'm an elite striker, so that, and I have some kooky ideas. Back then, I had some kooky ideas about relationships, and it was in a house, and it was a special season because half the fighters were men and half the fighters were women. So that was lined, so the ticket was booked, and after that, I was gonna stay in Ithaca, work as a professional teacher and a fighter, and then after a few months, I would go to Vegas again to do the show. So everything was aligned, and I was talking with some sponsors who were really interested because, well, yeah, a few months before I've knocked out in my second mixed martial arts fight a legend. So everything was aligned. Finally, after I was 30, everything was aligned. I was like, yes, this is it. So I went back to home to arrange the visa and all those things. And then before I went to the States, I got the medical check because like it's much cheaper in Belgium, our medical system. And all of a sudden, everything fell to pieces because I found out I had 2 retina detachments.
Wow.
And I couldn't train for 3 months. So I went from 4 to 6 hours a day training to zero. And so I shifted my focus on the only thing that I could think of is I started dancing,
Oh,
but not salsa because it's
wow.
hard. So I started doing zouk and I started doing kizomba, and I actually still do it. I really love it. It's one of my great things because it helps me to keep me in my body. And it's a very masculine thing because you have to lead, but you have to become aware of your partner. You have to be firm and you have to be clear but soft. And that softness was a challenge. I'm still developing that way of, because I'm a bit kooky, so I have my own rhythm, I do my own things. It's on rhythm, but it's special, like so many things in my life. And I'm very dominant, so I had to learn how to communicate with my body. It really helped me grow up. So I kept on, but then after those 3 months that I had to recuperate and start fighting again, but I detached again. And so in total I had 7 surgeries and I had no choice to be hang up the gloves. But then, yeah, when you have sacrificed everything, I sacrificed my academic career. Several of my girlfriends, I sacrificed them because I wanted to go to the States. It was so bad. I sacrificed all that and now it was gone. So I went into a deep hole, a deep pit. But in that pit, I found what I always say, the forever shining jewel, because I started to realize, but hey, wait a minute, that's what a lot of people are doing. So many people are burning out, in business. So many fighters get to the top, become a world champion, and then they fall in a real deep depression. Why? Because they always focus on striving and not on being, not on enjoying the now. And so then I started to perform with pleasure, and throughout the years I refined it, and I keep on studying because I'm a nerd. And so it has, yeah, so that's where we are at now. Man, wow.
And it's such a beautiful quality, like something that I loved how you worded it in like a lot of your profile and your website. Is like what you aim to do now is to help people enjoy living life as they are while they're going in the process of achieving it. So it's not like you get to this one goal and go epic, and then like you say, you get that really good fight, and then it's like, but then what? And they've they've almost got no exit strategy. So I'd love to know if you see your injuries and what you went through as like a real divine blessing in a way for the time that it happened, and how early it happened, I guess, because now I guess you've got the rest of your life to be coaching people either in the field or other professionals in other fields. Like, I know you love fighting, and that will probably forever be in your blood, and I'm sure there's a lot of frustration behind that, but what you do now I see is so inspiring and can probably help a lot of people and not just yourself.
Yeah, well, it's very ambivalent feelings of it because it was as I was born like that. Fighting was my life since I was 6. Playing was fine. It was the same, it was equal. My poor sister. But that's the thing. That's really like that. And so I still miss it every day. Like I said, if I would go to a medical check and by some wonder, because I did so many fastings, my eyes, like the scar tissue in my eyes was gone, I would fight immediately. I would start training and within 3 months I would be back in the ring. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what it is. But the chance that happens is rather big, So, but at the same time, yes, like it helped me to, if I wouldn't have that, I would have never come to Bali. I would have never, got such big growth. Like it is. It opens the door. It is what it is. Like I'm not regretting the things happen how they are, and so yeah, really, my life really is better than ever. Yeah, absolutely. But then along the way, the only thing that I really regret is that I hurt so many women and myself in the process. Because I can open my heart, but then I always had like this mental structure to protect me. And then when that got threatened, I started hurting women, and that was really bad. But I didn't see it. It was them, you know. Like they didn't accept me like I was. That's why they were hurt. No, they were hurting because I was a fucking asshole. Excuse my language. Because I was saying and doing things that were just really destructive.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. It was only when a girl said like, Nico, do you realize what you're doing? And she explained to me what I did, and all of a sudden I was really shocked. My mind fell open. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And she was right. All of a sudden, all of my experiences started to open up, pop, pop, pop. All of a sudden, it was like there was a light that was shining on it. And then all of a sudden, I saw myself in the mirror and I saw a very ugly person. Really ugly. I broke down. And and then in that moment, like I really felt that my father was near me, and I really apologized, and I said, sorry, Father, that I have become the opposite of what you raised me as. I literally was the guy that, as an 18-year-old, I would have knocked out, without doubt. And so, but in that moment, that was a real shift. It was after I hurt a woman more than ever before, like, and it's sad. Like I will always love her, but like I hurt her deeply, and of course she went very. She was intense too. I like intense women, so she went intense back. So it was really destructive, and since that moment, I really learned to okay, Nico, like let's look at this. Let's stay away and just focus. And in that moment, something very beautiful started to happen, because all of a sudden I started to realize that, wait a minute. All of a sudden, all the knowledge, because I've been studying relationship therapy as a hobby for my entire life, it started all falling to pieces. And all of a sudden I started to realize, wait a minute, Nico. You have been suppressing your good feelings. Every time that it went to shit was when you were really, really happy. And then you say or do something that destroyed it. And so in that moment, I started to see that I have been living like a coward in that field for so many years. I was in real shock. But that was also very beautiful, because then when you realize that you've been living like a coward, then you can choose to start to become brave. So I learned to start opening my heart and start to really say, okay, when I'm really happy, and it was a few times I had to fall my face, don't get me wrong, and hurt other beautiful women that I love. But all of a sudden, I started realizing that when I'm really happy, Nico, shut up. Don't say anything, don't do anything, and just enjoy the moment. And so that's the thing. But because of it, but at the same time, in my work with people, I started with elite athletes, and then gradually I started working more with entrepreneurs and executives. And I would love to have some more athletes again, because I miss that field. But what I saw was that most people that came to me, they were near burnout or burned out, but they want to achieve even more. But what was interesting was that the biggest stressor, for sure with powering, was not the work. When you start digging deeper, the work was just the symptom.
Yeah.
The amount of work that they were doing was a way to distract themselves. And if they're not working, they were partying, or they were at the opposite side. If they were not party girls, they were hyper-focused on health. Working out, weighing their food, it was all just distractions. And so work became a distraction for the whole gaping hole they were here. They felt really lonely and unlovable. And so that's what happens then when you come to the absolute top and you can't go any higher anymore. All of a sudden, all of that illusion falls away, and then it's like, shit. That doesn't mean that goals can't be really fulfilling, but you need to be different, right? So on the way, I start to get some insights. And so the system that I built has three main parts. The first part is about the performance, and it's about how you can turn stress into your competitive advantage. In other words, how you can turn stress and intense emotions too. There's a reason they're there.
Right.
Sometimes I hear people that believe in the quantum field to say, no, you can only feel one feeling at the same time because they have a different vibration. I think that's absolute nonsense. Feelings are inherently ambivalent because they are the both sides of the same coin. You have love, and you have a broken heart. It's the same thing. You can't feel joy without pain. So I help people to see that, and I help give people tools through hypnosis and through evidence-based techniques, how to, leverage their nervous system and how to respect the way the body works, so they can work harder and longer than anybody else, but in a different way. So they become a master in letting go and go. So they have mastered between switching between the go mode and the let go mode. So that's the first part. That's really nice, and I love that because it can transform. Because it's an underlying thing. You can use it for your business, but also for your relationships. It's just intensity handling, and even for your sexuality. Because if you're able to stay present and comfortable in intensity, whether it is intense pain or intense joy and happiness and love or intense sexuality, it's all the same skill.
100%.
That's step one. And step two is, okay, that my company, like you saw, is perform with pleasure. And the pleasure is the second part. And people confuse pleasure. People think a life dedicated to pleasure is a meaningless life. I say no, a life without meaning, pleasure is a life without meaning. But people confuse pleasure with entertainment. Entertainment is everything you do to distract you from life. Everything that empties your cup. Everything that afterwards you feel, I'm empty, I'm angry, I'm a bit angry with myself, I'm uncomfortable, I'm throwing away my life. But pleasure is everything that fills up your cup. Everything that engages you more fully in life, anything that fills up your cup. And it can be work. So
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last part is, of course, also to help people to build a passionate relationship. Because to me, that's the fast track for personal growth. Because the secret key to how you can do that is you have to learn how to hold on to yourselves, how to be truly authentic. And when you are two authentic people and you have authentic intimacy, you share yourself like you are. And I can tell that everyone thinks they want true intimacy. I can tell you, 95% of people will not be able to handle it because you will hear things that you don't like at all. But once you learn to do that, once you can apply the skills in your intimate relationship, you can do it everywhere. So that is, man, I'm
Mic
having
drop.
a talking. Yeah.
I loved it. I feel like I could listen to you all day, dude. It's amazing because what I hear from what you've got out of the people that you deal with, and it's probably because you've gone through it yourself, is that a huge common denominator is loneliness. And I think I see that in so many people's areas of life. And when they're lonely, it means that it's a hole that no one else can fill. They think they can fill it with entertainment or people, but when that goes, there's this like inherent loneliness. So I love the 3 steps that you go through from, the go mode to let go mode, and then entertainment versus pleasure. So, and when they get to relationship, they have a fuller sense of themselves so that they actually can become intimate and they can know themselves before they're moving in to be in relationship, whether it's in business or whether it's more intimately with like a partner or whatever. So you can go, no, these are my values, these are my boundaries, this is what I like, what I don't like. Whereas I think so many people tend to not like to speak up about what they like or don't like. Whereas it's like, actually, if you tell me, then I can work towards that, or I can see if we're a fit or not a fit, like, and I think communication's probably the biggest strength that humans and animals and whatever else that we have. And if we know how to communicate with the same language that the other person's speaking, I feel like we'd be miles ahead and we can really grow together, or in whatever capacity that is.
Yeah, like, so the way I look at relationships is a bit different. Like, the way I look at intimacy is different. For me, intimacy is not closeness. That's different. Intimacy is the integration of closeness and self-determination.
I love that.
So it's from Alexander Bowen. He's like a family therapist, and he speaks about differentiation of self, whereby you become less dependent on other people. But because of it, you can be able to handle the clashes in intimacy much more, and you will also be able to separate much easier. But the problem is, a lot of people have the idea that suppose you're wine and I'm beer. They meet somebody else. We meet each other, we are attracted to each other. What happens when we start to build relationships? I put some wine with my beer. You put some beer with your wine. Until we have like this mixture that nobody wants to drink because it's disgusting. So, but why does it happen? Well, because we are, and then we think, we can't communicate. No, the problem is not the communication. Many people think that that's the problem in relationships. No, the problem is that you're enmeshed. You're so connected that you have lost track of who you are and what makes you you. So, because there is no space, it's like you enmeshed and like you're practically making love to yourself. And who wants to do that? It can be nice. Don't get me wrong. I like it sometimes. But like if you have a partner next to you, you don't want to have mutual masturbation. No, you want to connect with somebody that is a separate entity. So I help my clients to go from the idea that a relationship is about doing things together. No. To me, a relationship is about being separate together.
And that's polarity, isn't it? Like, just say,
Yes.
and that's the beautiful thing about relationship. And I'm glad that you corrected me on the communication side. I think it's such a huge point. But you're so very right. And like people who stay together for ages, or, they get attracted to each other initially, they end up becoming the same person because you kind of do the things that that other person likes. And so it's like nothing becomes interesting anymore, and there's no push or pull. And I mean, there's an unhealthy level of that where you're always in like extreme polarity. But I think, and you'd understand that. But I think when you find that nice balance of like, no, I am looking for a masculine quality that is very different to mine, but we share the same goals, that's when it's like, oh, this is really attractive because you have something different to offer. We're not just talking to each other about the same thing. And it's exactly why we have different friends, different teachers, different role models in our life. So yeah, really good point and pick up there.
Yeah, I love this work. Like it's like I work a lot with the techniques of David Schnarch. He sadly passed away last year,
How do you
but
spell his name?
David is S-C-H
Yep.
A Schnarch, A-R-C-H, I think Schnarch.
Uh-huh.
And he has a audio book that summarizes it well, because like the books I'm reading are academic, they're like 600 pages, but let me see the world. It's like the secret of a passionate marriage on the secrets of a passionate marriage on Kindle, Audible.
Yeah, send it to me or something. Just send it to in a message after.
Yeah, it's so good because
Amazing.
he states like the problem is that most of relationship therapy is based on attachment theory, but attachment theory models the way we relate to people to infants. But it doesn't take into account also that infants are much more resilient than that we give them credit to. Adults can be much more resilient than we give them credit to. But because because there's this model of in the world that intimacy is like, hey, the perfect one, the one. So you get to this falsified idea about what intimacy is and about how able you are to stay true to yourself in the presence of somebody that you love.
Right.
So a lot of people are talking about authenticity, but they have no idea how intense it is. True intimacy is only for people with real big nuts.
How about for the women?
They have even bigger nuts, let's be honest.
Good answer, legend. The next point that I wanted to bring up, and I'll leave this as like the last question before we do just a few rapid fire. Have you got time to stay on for a little bit longer as well?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I blocked out 2 hours.
Oh, you're a legend. Thank you. So I know
I'm a talker, so I want to make sure we have enough time.
I'm a talker as well, but I'm just mindful that I know it's scheduled for like an hour, but I love a chat and a tea, so it's happy days. Yeah, you talk about, your dad being someone who was a really big influence in your life, Nico, and I feel a lot of passion when you talk about him. So I see him as probably one of your teachers and role models, and I'd be curious to know who your other teachers and role models are, since has he passed? He has passed, hasn't he?
Yeah, I was 21. It was like that's why I ran away in fighting and in this weird conceptualization of how relationships should work that is still like I in my mind I believed in polyamory, but in practice like I wasn't able to do it. Because polyamory is still a very beautiful idea, but I think it's something that can grow after you've been together for a long time. You have that deep trust, and then it can be something that grows, that adds on to it. But you can't do that when you have a hole inside, like I used to have.
Yeah. Who else do you look up to in terms of like the mindset stuff that you do, or like other fighters or boxers that you looked at the time that were real, like I don't know whether to say father figures to you or just actual mentors?
Well, yeah. First of all, my trainer was my true mentor. He taught me discipline. He helped me to push through boundaries. He gave me another model of how a man could be. He was much more well, not really a lady. Yeah, well, yeah, he was a very attractive man. So like that was a different side than my father, the real family man, the really strong principles, which they both have. So it was I had those two worlds. That was really important. Now, like for the big figures, I never really look up to people I don't really know.
Sure.
Yeah, but let me think. Yeah, someone that really gave a big impression on me was Uma Inder from Bali. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she's initiated in traditional Shaiva Tantra. So she lived in a forest for long time. She's a really powerhouse, and it's the first one that really uh, opened my brain for spiritual experience.
It's amazing.
Because well, yeah, I sat with her and some strange things happened, but it was like at the same time my mind was saying, what is going on? So it's interesting. Um, so she is really important as a role model. And for the rest, and of course David Schnarch. I love him.
Yep.
Like when I read his books, I see he's also trained by Erickson. He's a pioneer in more subtle hypnosis.
Oh, wow.
And I could read in his therapy transcripts, he was working on 3, 4 levels at the same time. He's a real genius. I love that. So yeah, for the rest, there are not so many people. I don't actually like. Yeah, I do look up to Thomas Sowell.
Thomas Sowell. How do you spell that? Last name.
Yeah, Thomas Sowell, I think, or one L.
Yep.
Yes, something like that. He's an economic African American economist, and he's pretty right wing. It's interesting because he used to be a communist, and it's a bit like me. Like I used to be very socialistic. My father was ill, so like the healthcare system helped him. Like we could survive because of that. And my mother worked, but still. But at the same time, I also see a lot of the flaws in the system. And what I really like about him is that he's really talking about that a lot of that the healthcare, not the health, but like the welfare system, since that has been introduced, the numbers show that African Americans are worse off. And then I started to think, from a psychological perspective, it makes sense. Because if you get handouts, what you actually are hearing is you are a victim. Oh, poor you, here, we will help you. So in that way, even people that out of goodness of their heart are helping other people, sometimes it can be really patronizing. It's like the mother and you see it a lot. Like I heard some of the women that come to me saying, Nico, where are the real men? Everybody is such weak boys. I'm like, yeah, but it's because a lot of the mothers, they are caring, but they're afraid that their son can't handle it. So they take all the possibilities for pain away. So the boys don't learn to become a man.
Right. They enable the behavior, don't they?
No, they don't enable. They even when, like, listen, when I was a young boy, we fought. And in the school, what happened in all boys' school, we pulled apart like, what else going on? Expect, okay? Now shake hands and it's okay. Good to your part. That's all. If you do that now, they call your parents, you get expelled, that's horrible. But like for literally thousands of years, that's how normally how the social hierarchy in the tribes was held. Boys fight. Like I always compare it with this. And now people are surprised that testosterone levels are dropping. And they say it's from pollution, from we eat, and that probably is part in part too. But I think it's really important that because our bodies is a feedback loop. So if all the actions that are linked with testosterone are being punished, of course you're not going to create testosterone because you're afraid that you will lose love.
Yeah.
If you're really competitive, But the problem is that because a lot of women have been hurt so much by bad men, they talk about toxic masculinity and then they throw away all masculinity. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Because true masculinity, like I said in the beginning, true men are absolutely caring and protective and soft and attentive. But if you're gonna fight against them, what will people do? They will fight back. So to me, I want a fourth wave of feminism, where it's not about separation anymore, but about integration, about not having to put on the pants, but just say, no, listen, I'm a woman, I love a dress. I love colors. I love pretty things.
Yes.
So you're free. So you're free to choose. Like I'm gonna be the killer CEO of that trading company, or I choose to be an all-time mother. I choose to be a home dad, or I choose to be that guy that is working 20 hours a day.
Yes.
Freedom. That's what I want. And I really get pissed off when people are talking about toxic masculinity because it is just ridiculous.
Right.
As if it's intertwined, masculinity, toxicity. No, that thing itself is toxic. Because we again, like we said in the beginning, you're putting a stamp, you're blaming, you're playing the victim, and all of a sudden, you're perpetuating the patriarchy that you're so afraid of. Because if you're really equal, you don't have to fight.
Right.
For example, my sister is to me a beautiful example of a truly women that is feminized. She is very feminine, she's very soft, she's very caring, she's managing a team of I think 12 people. It does it in a very feminine way, but don't fuck with her, right? Because
She's
she
got
will
Nico
stand her
blood in
ground.
her.
No, she will just stand her. She's very wrong, but she will stand her ground. And the thing is, because of that, that to me is power. She doesn't
Absolutely.
feel she needs to prove herself. She just knows that she's of equal value. So when you try to prove something, you don't believe it.
Right. It's trying to, again, it's going outward, and we have, the polarity of masculine and feminine within ourselves. But when we look at people, we can see what the true essence is of a person. Like I look at you and it's like your natural true essence would be masculine and mine would be feminine. But there are a lot of times in my work that I know I would step into a masculine kind of energy, whereas like stripping all of that away, it's like, I do just want to wear a dress, or I do just want to be chill and soft and calm. But there are different times in your life that you do have to step up or step down. And it's about kind of dancing with the elements and going, okay, like, what does this scene need, or what does this person need? And that very much is coming down to observing people and paying attention to detail, which is something that I'm super passionate about anyway. I love noticing all the little things that people do or say.
Yeah, I think, listen, feminism was really, really, really needed. It was really needed, but a lot of the story is just not true. Like, women were not home because men forced them to. It was a natural biological specialization. But the problem is it became perverted. And that's true. Like in the beginning of last century, when women were forced to stay home like that, that's not good, it's like a cycle. And so it was really necessary and good that it happened. But now we're like, why do we have to focus on what divides us? Why can't we just more like start to focus, okay, what unites us and how can we complement each other? We are different. Who denies that is full of ignore the science. They say no, it's all culturally created. No, it's not true. They are and it can happen. There is a tribe where the women have a masculine role. They hunt, they wage war. Why? At a certain moment, all the men were killed. So they had to take it over. And there it changed. But what's interesting is that the testosterone levels of women are higher and the testosterone levels of men are very low.
Wow.
Again, feedback loop. And that is what I'm seeing happening. So I see a lot of women that have that feminine essence, but because they got hurt or because they had only themselves to depend on, they had to put on the masculine mask. For sure, when you work in a masculine-oriented business world, so you go, but then you're craving for somebody that can, lead and just take initiative and say, "Come, darling, I will take care of you." And that's what I believe. That's why 50 Shades of Grey is so popular, because so many women are craving that. And because the more dominant you become as a woman with a feminine essence in life, the more you have to balance this out with a dominant man.
Right.
And I love to do that, so convinced. but it's
that's the
yeah.
thing, like when you know, just say a man is really operating in his feminine and a woman's looking for a masculine man, of course he's going to get no traction. And it's the same for women. Like if I'm operating in a really masculine way,
Exactly.
I can see how, you know, that wouldn't be attractive to a man if his role is to protect and to look after. He'd be like, well, she can do it all, she is that. There's no reason to approach or to like to add polarity. Like he would almost have to be in his feminine for that to work.
Well,
so
yeah, it might work, and I don't judge, but just generally, like I think when you look at biology, the more classical roles is actually not in the general life, is more like that. Like to me, it's really great that a lot of women are in the workplace, because to me, we have to feminize the business world.
yeah, it's a good.
But what is
Cool
interesting,
point.
like, what I really love is that when I really study peak performance teams, it's fantastic. There are
You've just
three
instantly
main,
lit up.
Yeah, but it's cool because there are like three main characteristics of those teams. You know what they are? They are belonging, vulnerability, and mission. So mission is more masculine, but belonging, vulnerability are on top. Why? Well, belong because the people that are really on top, they don't talk about their colleagues, but they more talk about their family. They're really close. They see each other as true individuals, as persons to connect with. So they have deep connections. And the second part is, for example, the Navy SEALs, they really like family, you know? They're killers. I really like family. The second part is vulnerability. And I would say like vulnerability for Navy SEALs. Yeah, because for example, the leader, he reflects very sure that they have to work together. That alone they will never can do it. If they work alone, they die.
Mm-hmm.
Second, so that's vulnerability, because in vulnerability, when a boss, when a manager dares to share with his people, listen, I'm quite stressed with this COVID craze. I don't know if we can survive, but I trust that if we all work together, we will get there. It will be a stretch, but let's get this done. Now then something else happens, because all of a sudden everybody becomes really engaged. And then you have, of course, common purpose. Now, what I think is interesting, I always see the interlinks. So, well, that's true for high performance teams, but what is true for high performance teams could be true for high performing families, I mean. Because to me, relating is performance. It's performance. And people say, it's not about proving anything. I'm like, no, performance is also not about proving anything. Performance to me is doing something that you want to do, that you deliberately choose to do when it's really hard. And what is harder than build a meaningful relationship? Nothing.
Mic drop. You're putting out some big ones there, Nico. I'm not sure I can keep up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you ever teach this stuff to younger kids? Because I know that, like, you know how we were talking about before, where it's like there's you say, like, you know, young males or whatever, it's like just letting them fight it out instead of like putting band-aids on things and going, no, it's not okay. And kind of nurturing them too much when they should be kind of learning how to engage and interact. Is that something that you'd ever be passionate about, like educating the younger humans, like being a role model to younger kids?
Well, perhaps. I never thought about it. It would be beautiful, but like, I'm not a master with kids.
I might have just
I
planted
love
the
kids.
seed.
Yeah, it might be. Like the thing is, like, it would be really nice, but to me, I think the best way the children learn is by example. And so, yeah, of course, I would like to be a role model for young kids that can say, oh, like I can integrate both sides. I can be warm and very masculine, but I can be very affectionate, you know, and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's nice. But I think what needs to happen is the mothers need to realize, and fathers too, by the way,
Yeah.
that mothering your children is doing them a great disservice. You're making them weak. And if you fall away at a certain moment and life starts to hit them hard, they will be lost. Now, luckily, people are pretty resilient and we have it all in ourselves, but they will have a much harder time when they didn't learn. They didn't learn for what I like people to learn, their children, is the willingness to welcome stress, to welcome pain in the service of growth. If parents can do that, their children will become unstoppable. Even trauma cannot stop them then. Because exists something like this, and you almost never hear about it, like post-traumatic growth. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
It's awesome.
Like I heard a story about a woman, and she was really evolved in more the sexual tantric field, really meditative, already doing it 30 years. And she walked through town Central Park. I heard the story from another author. And all of a sudden she got raped. And while she gets raped, she caresses this guy's cheek and says, like, it's okay. There are people that it's okay, you have value, or you are beautiful. So what happened, this guy broke down crying in her arms while he just raped her. And so after he got, for a time, he insisted that he would guide her to the park because the park was dangerous. Now, of course, I don't want people to get raped at all, because to me that's the most despicable crime that there is, because it's trying to make something beautiful, take something beautiful and make it very ugly. So that to the side. But
it highlights the fact
people,
that hurt people. And
yes,
when someone sees that it's just a lonely little child in there that's expressing that anger through a terrible act, like that's hurting somebody else as well, you can see that they're just a person behind why they're doing that as well. Like as wrong as some people might, it's probably a big topic to bring up, where some people would be like, no, whatever, but we are all human underneath it all, with an inherent desire to belong and to...
Yeah, not everybody. So that's the thing. That's a little disclaimer. We're not talking about psychopaths here, because psychopaths, they have a real disease. What happens is, their nervous system doesn't generate empathy. Zero. They don't feel. That's why they start, as a kid, they start to carve up little animals, because all of a sudden they feel something in their stomach. They feel a little bit of disgust, and that's a feeling. Finally. I mean, I can understand how you can go completely nuts. For sure, that if you have a model of violence in your family, combined with that's very terrible news. But when I was after my father, I was very harsh to people. And because I felt nothing, zero. For 9 months, zero feeling.
Wow, yeah.
So, I prefer to feel deep pain. Because deep pain, I know I can only feel because I felt through deep joy. And that's a fucking privilege to feel. That's life.
That's a cool way to, I think, to wrap it up. And I'm going to go into asking you some just... answer them as quick as you can. I call it quick fire, but it has been taking so long with everyone that I've done it with, because we just end up chatting about the questions. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, it's us, so it'll probably take a while. Your top recommended book, podcast, movie, or documentary, or whatever, something that will add value.
Jesus Christ. My top... I read a book or two probably.
The first one that comes to mind.
David Schnarch's work, all of his books.
Yep, all cool.
For example, Passionate Marriage, Intimacy and Desire. It is so good.
Amazing.
It's just so good.
I'm going to look into that after here. This one is stumping everyone at the moment, but what is something that no one or very little people know about you, Nico, that you're willing to share?
Yeah, I'm pretty open, so people...
Or maybe that I don't know about you, which would probably be a lot.
Let me think. What do people don't know about me? That's real hard.
Gotcha.
Give me some time. Give me some time. Start talking a little bit.
I'll start talking. Where's your ultimate happy place? Like, where do you go and you just go, fuck yeah, this is my spot?
My body.
Your body, just being in it wherever you are.
Feeling my body, and mostly when I'm dancing.
That's cool.
When I have a woman that can truly follow, yeah, sexuality, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
only when she's also really there. We're both really there.
Yep. That's amazing.
Yeah. That's my happy place. And hypnosis, when I'm doing hypnosis, it's a real privilege to do that, because when I do, I have to go into trance myself. And like meditation, that works, but it takes a lot of dedication. But because I'm there like that, immediately.
Yep.
Doesn't take a minute. It's interesting, isn't it? How
Very.
relationally I can meditate like crazy, but then alone is different. That's my practice. So, what do people don't know about me? Man.
I'm going to keep asking questions. How much sleep do you get a night?
Well, normally it was 5 to 6, but now I'm taking off coffee for a month, and now it's apparently 7 and 8 hours. So I'm like really surprised. I'm like, wow.
Yay!
Well, between 6.5 and 8, but like 6.5 is actually then I feel the best.
Yeah. Are you doing that as like a detox and just to challenge yourself, or just to give your nervous system a rest?
Yeah, well, I was drinking 8 coffees a day. Like, I don't want to be dependent. I love coffee, don't get me wrong. I will not give it up, but yeah. Yeah.
Probably reducing
also,
from 8 is a good idea.
Yeah, and I was also doing a 5-day fast, which I do regularly, but I did already another 5-day fast in January, and then 3 fasts in January, and then another one in February, but I think it's too much. Because this one, for the first time, I really felt foggy, and I was trying to take a master class, and it just didn't work. So I decided after 4 days to eat. Like, I like to challenge myself, but I learned, because of my fighting, to listen to my body for once.
Yeah, finally you've listened. Well done. It's taken how long?
37 years.
Do you have a superpower that you've always wanted, like ever since you've been a little kid, that if you could have it, you would?
No, I was not so much into superheroes.
You were more the nerd.
No, I was more the fighter, just really, really, really just fighting, hitting sticks or swords, sort of. Well, yeah, the ability to, as a kid, I want to be able to be like a ninja, but nobody would hear me. And I could just vanish and appear. Yeah.
And now you're like the complete opposite of that. You're like, hi, I'm Nico, I'm here, I'm doing this.
Yeah, actually, like when I was 11, I wanted to become because I realized I couldn't become a ninja or a Native American. I decided to become a hermit on the mountain with wild dogs and a horse. That was my plan. Might still happen, don't get me wrong.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that in my ancestry is Native American Indian. So.
Oh, nice. I hate you now. Understand that?
Yes.
You didn't know that I hate you. No,
Go
like,
on. Hate me. Do it. Bring it on. I can deal with it. Righto, you've got to answer this. What is something no one or very little people know about you, or that I don't know about you? Which will be pretty easy because I don't know a whole heap.
I'm going to give it to you, but it's very hard. Like, I have a blockage. Blockage? Oh no, what interesting thing is under that blockage?
Or maybe we can leave it for another episode when you're on again.
I have a very hard time Yeah, I don't surrender.
You don't surrender.
I surrender to the moment, to myself, and to a few people I can follow, but very, very, very little. Like most people, I can learn from people. I'm open to learning, but it's always with a critical mind. And yeah, it's some people, they're masters in it. There's great powers in being able to be submissive.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing sometimes in the BDSM field, and when I see like these power women that have the power to just completely surrender everything and just follow along and enjoy and let somebody else take care of them, man, I'm like, wow, that's fantastic, because that takes guts. People don't realize that being submissive is actually the more dominant in thing, because the person on the bottom receives, the other one is giving, is serving the other person. Well, in an ideal way, of course. So that's like, yeah, it's a very hard time for me. I have a hard time for other people to take care of me. But it has to do with arrogance. I can be rather arrogant. So, for example, if I feel that somebody is not really very aligned with her touch,
Mhm.
no, it's like, don't touch me. So I have that a lot. Yeah, it's yeah. I have to watch out for arrogance.
That's really, really honest. And I think something to remember with surrendering, something that I struggled with for a while as well. But then I realized, because I love giving so much, that, people wanted to help or they wanted to do things for me. And I had to see it as a form of, when I said no or didn't allow that, that I was actually rejecting them the chance to do that. And when you see it in that place of, like, if someone rejected me giving help, of knowing how that felt, and it's like, oh, actually it doesn't feel great. So it's like, I could be doing that to people, and it's like, actually no, it's actually nice to let someone do something for you, and in a way it challenges you to get out of your comfort zone of, like, this doesn't feel right to me. But if someone genuinely wants to do it, it's like, well, that's the process of allowing and surrendering. So yeah, you should challenge yourself to do that more, because it's out of your comfort zone.
I should do absolutely nothing. That's something that I'm also recalcitrant. That's also something that a lot of people don't really see. No, perhaps they do. I don't know.
You'll get all these
Like,
messages now, let me help you, Nico. You'll be like, fuck off.
exactly. Like, I would choose. So it's very funny. Like, I would choose who I surrender to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, I think there's such great power in that. In learning how to let go of control. That's a lot of my work with my clients is around that. Because some of my clients, they are scaling their business, and they have a hard time getting a man very often. Yeah, but they're killing themselves. And of course, you're micromanaging everything in scaling your business.
Yeah.
If you're scaling your business, you will know that you will have problems. You know that your level of quality will not be there yet in the beginning. You have to create a system that in time, but you will have to be patient. You will have to accept that for a while your quality goes a little bit down, because otherwise you kill yourself. And then it's worse off. Then your company is because it's so dependent on you. If you keep your company dependent on you, just like you keep your children dependent on you, you are going to be drained, and when you fall, they are lost. So the same thing in business and relationships is how you do one thing is how you do mostly everything. Not always, though, but very often.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sometimes I see it as like how people treat their personal life to their business life is quite different, because it's like a mask. But in terms of like the underlying framework of what you do, yeah, it can often be the same, for sure.
For example, you see those guys, they are really successful, rich, but then with the girl, they're a nice guy. But we both know that the so-called nice guy is not nice at all, because he's trying to manipulate you into liking him. So it's There is no desire. Of course not. Like you act like a puppy boy. How can she feel safe and secure with you? Like it's literally. But then in business they're really ruthless. Well, that's their true nature, you know. But they very it's not their fault. Very often they have been taught that being that in relation to a woman is bad. You're a bad man. You can't be forceful. You can't be leading. You can't be dominant with a woman. Well, like, who like that's such an unnuanced vision of the reality. You know, man,
I think they're
a
getting
lot of times.
rewarded, like, because there's obviously like a positive sense of doing that in business, and they're getting rewarded so much of it in their
Yeah.
professional life. So they come back and then they're getting shredded apart, and it must be very confusing if you don't have that insight of like, but I normally get rewards for being this way when I'm doing this kind of
Or
work.
you, yeah, or the opposite, you have like people that are really dominant in the business world, but really soft in the team world. You know, it's like with women, it's more like I see they're very strong in the business world, and then sometimes it's hard, and because it's sort of, I mean, women are amazing. It's like the amount of work that women can do, and the amount of information that at the same time you can play around with, it's mind-boggling. I'm a man, let me do one thing, and if I try to multitask, nothing is ever, ever. Like when I read a book, like I will go, you know. So I mean, I need to make it a practice. So, Nico, when you have a girlfriend and she comes in the house and you're reading a book, stand up, give her a kiss, and then you can go back to your thing. Like I really need to make that a practice. Things like that.
I think it's a beautiful quality in men, though. That's something that my sister and I often talk about, is that, you know, a man can put a lot of his focus into one thing, and that is a lot to do with the brain makeup of a male versus a female, of like, we have different wiring, and I wish sometimes I could sever all of mine and focus so intensely on one. And, you know, you say you have to practice at multitasking or being aware when you need to be bit more.
No, so the thing is like generally I can be I'm pretty creative, so I'm pretty chaotic. But once I've absorbed in something that really fascinates me, like fighting was, it's obsessive.
Yes.
I'm obsessive. Like the book. If I start to reach snarch, very often, literally 15, 16 hours later, so, oh, I didn't think, I didn't eat.
A healthy obsession's amazing, though. That's like passion.
It can, I don't know, it can be, I'm not necessarily sure that it's right, like it's, because I can have with some ideas I can have too, and then I can be really, I'm generally pretty empathic, but once I get into that obsessive space, no way. Like it's like I've like
can't get into Nico's world, can't break him.
Yeah, it's my world. You follow.
Exactly.
You do what I say.
Right. Then you just need a lady to step into a masculine, like, no.
No,
that'd probably add fire.
Effect. Yeah, the best thing is to do, and like that to express.
The ladies listening, listen up.
That you express that you feel hurt, and all of a sudden, you do not tell me what to do, or for example, man, seek to man's heart, make him feel like a hero, but don't tell him what to do.
Yeah.
Invite him. Dangle your need before me. It's like a cat. Like, oh, she has a need. I can do that. I can give her that. I will be the hero. And he feels fantastic, and she feels good too. She gets what she wants. It's like in Indonesia, you have Java. That's like the biggest island. Yeah. And there, the mothers teach their daughters how to talk to their man and how to treat their man. Say, you treat your man like a king, and he will give you everything. And I had contacts with a woman, and she was mastering it. So at the moment I was a bit like all over the place and not really attentive. And she said like to me, it was genius. It was really genius.
Wow.
She said, Nico, I would love you to be more attentive, but I'm not expecting it because you're just too young. Oh, it was so good. Because a man with masculine essence will goddamn make sure that he will prove that he's not too young. And I knew what she was doing. I knew it perfectly well. I know when women are manipulating me, but it's not manipulation. It's a different kind of communication.
Right.
Like when you look at anthropology, like in the 20s, there was anthropologists who were studying the villages here in Portugal. And on paper, the men are really machismo. Women have nothing to say. But during the day, they went fishing or working on the fields, and the women were gathering on the marketplace, exchanging the food, and everything that was decided there got decided. They were ruling. And I think you can see it, for example, like a lot of Moroccan families too. The household is the mother who decides. Look at the Italians. The men are machismo, or the men are the boss, the woman, but the mother, la mama. So it's beautiful, you know. Like it's not as black as white as a lot of the extreme feminists that are still thinking they have to fight present. It's much less black and white, but it's just the way they communicate. A lot of women have crafted a way of communicating. Like my business coach, she is so good. When I'm slacking off, she knows perfectly well how to talk to me. Two things. Oh, she challenges me. She goes a bit in her masculine. She's like, man, yeah, it's okay. And then she's probably a competition with somebody else, and I'm like,
I'll do it. Yes.
or yeah, just like expressing her need, like or saying that she feels sad because some result was not there, and all of a sudden I feel it's interesting. Yeah, perhaps I'm separate, but I think that most men function like that. Most men with a masculine essence function like this.
If we focus on serving the other person always, or to be better for that better person, I think it's always going to be like, it's almost like this fun competition of like, no, I want to serve you better. And if you communicate in that way of like knowing how you can do that, or trying to understand the person, how you could better do that for them, it becomes like a fun game, and it doesn't get monotonous, and it doesn't get like 20 years down the track and you're just sick of each other and whatnot.
Well, I have to say, like, if you focus on serving each other, sometimes the best thing to serve each other is to say no. Sometimes the best way to serve each other is to fight. Because, like I said, I mean, like, that's why the guys in the Spanish, they fight like this, because they still have passion. Because it gives them polarity. Of course, I don't want to get, to me, it would be too much, such a volatile relationship. But yeah, there is something to it, there is something about daring to stay true to yourself.
Right.
In the presence of people you love, and under the pressure of people you love, to compromise yourself. So that's what the problem is. People start to make compromise after compromise until they compromise themselves, and then they have the choice between staying true to themselves or relationships, and that's no choice. So then people separate, but then they get ruptured because they were so enmeshed. Instead of that, they learn how to take the difficult and scary task, to learn to stand on their own two feet. So it becomes a choice to come together. So it becomes the space where the desire can fire up, can burn. Instead of just, being enmeshed and, choking each other.
Well, I guess the polarity is lost over time if you're not interested, and it's like that initial thing of why people, get together is like this attraction force, and then when you've been together for so long, it's like a lot of people can lose that. And so often it's that, the breakup time, or when there's a fight and the passion that comes back, you're like, oh, it's, I don't always think it's through fighting, but I think it can be through standing your ground and saying yes or no to what you stay true to. And then it brings back that polarity of like, this frustrates me, but it's also the very reason I'm in love with you, or whatever. Absolutely.
Psychology has done a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. It's for sure these days everybody is autistic. If you have a bit of weird thing, you're autistic. You know, like
Are you autistic, Nico?
It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I have some weird, very, very weird cutes, and I'm really obsessive. So that's why I think might be.
You're
And
autistic.
I had, yeah, probably. Yeah, I've been cast a narcissist and a psychopath too.
No worries. It's been nice talking to you.
Yeah. So what psychological disease should you have? If you have one, which label would be put on your face?
You're putting it back on me, huh?
Oh hell yeah.
Interesting. No one's done that yet. Psychology.
So what psychological problem would you have?
I feel
What-
like because I can change my mood instantly. I feel like it'd almost be like multiple personality or bipolar. It'd be like, what is she doing now?
Bipolar,
What
yeah.
is she thinking?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So
Darling,
that's mine.
that's feminine essence, isn't it? You know? I accepted, I fall for very feminine women, so I accepted a long time ago. I will get moments of extreme drama. Because I love women. Like one of the most beautiful things I have, and I'm a bit of a weirdo in that. I think it's because I've fasted so much, you know. So when I see a woman eat or drink, and she disappears completely in whatever she's eating or drinking, and nothing else exists. Oh man, then I know she's a good one. You know, it's oh yeah, wow.
Food is
That's
the best. It's so
yeah.
beautiful. I love cooking for people. I'm so happy to be in a house that I get to cook, and I like actually assign myself in the kitchen because I just love putting love into the food. And when you get to eat with people, it's like
So you don't spit in it.
no. That's next level. That's something an autistic person would do.
Real intimacy is that, you know? Yeah.
Right. So I'm learning all of the
Taste me,
tricks of the
girl.
trade.
Exactly.
Yeah. Probably not appropriate to do with my sister and her partner. I feel like that'd be weird.
Well, the hillbillies do it, why not?
Hey, Nico, where can people find you? What is the best place for them to look you up? I have your website down here in the show notes and your Instagram account at Nico_Verresen. Is there
Yes.
anywhere else that you like people to be directed to?
No, I think that's good. Or Facebook, just my name. You will
Cool.
see my face appear. So that's the best way to contact me. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. I'm going to close this off, but stay on for just a little bit after. And
Of course.
yeah, beautiful. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, whether you're watching this down the track or, you know, if nobody listens to it, I don't really care because I've had an absolute ball chatting with you, Nico. And yeah, and I don't think I mentioned my listener or subscriber of the week, but I wanted to give a shout out to my sister, Sarah Quellhurst, who was on my previous episode, which will be released tomorrow. And it seems like a little bit of a cop-out, but she's been supporting me throughout this whole project and just throughout life in what I do, and I absolutely love it a bit. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed tuning in with Nico. He's had some awesome insights into what he does. It's been an absolute ball of laughs and really great value. So please share this on your social media or send it to a friend if you know that they need this kind of information. And I'd love to hear from you, whether that's a personal message or an email. And I will see you in the next episode. So signing out with Oceans of Love and Light with Law.
Bye.
Bye.